Donald Trump's poll numbers really don't look good at the moment. Different aggregators give slightly different numbers, but there's now a pretty broad consensus that Trump's approval ratings are basically the lowest they've ever been. Elliott Morris's aggregator, for instance, currently puts Trump's net approval rating at about -18, his worst number so far this term, and not far off the lows we saw early in his first term. And the very latest polls look especially bad. A Pew Research poll published on Thursday, for instance, with a pretty large sample size of about 8,500 respondents, put Trump's net approval at an appalling -24, with just 37% saying that they approve. Furthermore, recent special elections suggest that the polls might even be underestimating Trump's unpopularity. Over the weekend, for instance, an underfunded Democrat won a Texas state Senate seat by 15 points in a county that Trump won by 17 points in 2024. This would imply an astonishing 32-point swing towards the Democrats, the steepest in any special election since Trump took office. So in this video, we thought we'd try and do our best to figure out what's going so wrong for Trump, and why his approval ratings are apparently plummeting. If you love staying informed and want some of the best reporting on YouTube, then subscribe and ring the bell for more. As we see it, there are broadly three reasons for Trump's recent poll slump. The first is immigration. We've covered this in some of our recent videos, but the TLDR is that despite being pretty hardline by both historical and international standards, Trump's immigration policies used to be popular, at least relative to his other policies. Again, according to Elliott Morris's aggregator, for instance, on the issue of immigration specifically, Trump's net approval rating has hovered around -5 for the past 6 months or so. Down a bit from the start of his term, but still well above his own personal approval rating, and better than he scores on many other issues like the economy, where Trump is deep underwater. However, recent polling suggests that Americans are starting to sour on Trump's immigration policies, and his net approval on the issue has been falling pretty consistently since the start of the year, to about -10 today. This decline coincides neatly with Operation Metro Surge, the ongoing deportation effort in Minnesota, led by federal immigration agents from Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol, which was announced in early December but was dramatically expanded on January 6th. As you probably already know, the operation has proven somewhat controversial, both because of the authorities', let's say, heavy-handed tactics, and because 2 US citizens, Rene Good and Alex Pretty, have been killed by federal agents during the operation. Polling suggests that most Americans think that federal agents were not justified in their use of force in either case, and this has contributed to a more widespread antipathy towards both ICE and Trump's immigration policies more generally. The most recent YouGov poll on the issue, for instance, found that for the first time ever, a plurality of Americans want to abolish ICE. Anyway, the point we're trying to make is that most Americans apparently think that Trump has gone too far in Minnesota, and this has hurt his poll numbers on the issue of immigration more generally. This will both pull down Trump's overall approval rating, as well as making it more difficult for the administration to deflect attention away from the issue of affordability towards immigration, as they have done in the recent past. This leads us nicely onto the second reason. Trump is rapidly losing support among working-class Americans. For context, at the 2024 election, Trump performed remarkably well with lower-income voters, especially those earning less than $50,000 a year. In fact, Democrats only really survived the election because high-income voters, earning over $100,000 a year, swung dramatically towards Harris. According to analysis by the Financial Times, 2024 was the first election since 1960 where Democrats performed better with the richest third of Americans than with the poorest third. But unfortunately for Trump, polling suggests that he's currently lost the most ground with those low-income voters. According to an analysis of polling conducted by The Argument magazine, Trump's approval rating has fallen 22 points with voters earning less than $25,000 a year, 17 points with those earning between $25,000 and $50,000, 14 points with those earning between $50,000 and $100,000, 11 points with those earning between $100,000 and $200,000, and 10 with those earning $200,000 and above. This is presumably because Trump's economy is worse for poorer Americans, for at least two reasons. The first is inflation. While it's obviously come down from its post-pandemic highs, inflation remains elevated in the US, with year-on-year inflation coming in at 2.7% in November. This might not sound that bad, but it's a fair bit higher than the Federal Reserve's 2% target, and the cumulative effect of persistently higher than target inflation means that prices in the US have now risen by more than 25% in the past 5 years, which is obviously terrible news for poorer Americans. The second thing that's hurting poor Americans, however, is the job market. Not only has unemployment been steadily ticking up, with poorer Americans being more likely to lose their jobs, wage growth for poor Americans has also plummeted. According to data from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, the bottom 25% of earners actually saw average wage growth between 2015 and 2023. But that pattern has reversed in the past year or so, and lower income workers are now seeing weaker wage growth than everyone else. In this context, it should come as little surprise that Trump is seeing steeper declines in support with poorer voters. So that's the second reason for Trump's poll slump. Poorer voters are turning on him. The third reason, however, is that Trump's foreign policy adventures don't seem to be helping either. Sometimes foreign policy successes can rescue a president. Jimmy Carter, for instance, saw a jump in the polls after the Camp David Accords in 1978. George H.W. Bush enjoyed one after the Gulf War in 1991, and George W. Bush's approval ratings reached Kim Jong-un levels in the aftermath of 9/11. Trump was presumably hoping that one of his putative foreign policy gains might have had a similar effect, but this doesn't seem to have happened. Even though some of Trump's specific foreign policy actions are popular, a majority of Americans, for instance, approve of Trump's Gaza peace deal and his strikes against Iran, they don't seem to have had an impact on his headline numbers. This is presumably because Trump's nominal achievements haven't really endured. The Gaza peace deal, for instance, has suffered repeated violations since its introduction, and Trump was unable to push Iran into a new deal, but also because they've just been overshadowed by other unpopular foreign policy moves. A plurality of Americans, for instance, disapprove of Trump's handling of Ukraine, Greenland, and Venezuela, and at least according to a recent YouGov poll, actually think that Trump should focus less on foreign policy and more on domestic issues like the economy. All in all, things just don't look good for Trump heading into the midterms, and he's now running out of time to turn things around. Now, this is a big story, and amongst every other big story happening right now, you might be feeling powerless in the current climate. The problems feel massive, and individual actions can feel meaningless. But what if we told you that you can be part of something bigger, something that actually turns concern into action? Well, that's where our friends at Planet Wild come in. Planet Wild is not just your usual environmental organization. It's a passionate community built around a clear focus, protecting and conserving the world we all live in. We're more aware than ever that the world is a scary place, and the state of our planet needs to change. So every single month, the Planet Wild community funds a mission to protect endangered animals, restore our forests, and clean our oceans. They document all of these missions in videos here on YouTube, so we can see exactly what we've helped to achieve. The impact we've all made will be right before our eyes. From cleaning up Mumbai's plastic river to protecting Europe's last ancient forest, and even saving elephants with the help of bees. Planet Wild will stop at nothing to make the world a better place for every living being on it. So where do you and I come in? Well, by becoming a member, we're directly funding a brand new nature mission from the comfort of our own home. We support, they execute. If you want to join the growing community making a real difference, Planet Wild is the place to be. Big or small, your difference matters, and you can contribute as little as $6 a month to help protect nature. We're big fans of Planet Wild, so much so that the first 100 people to use code NEWSGLOBAL2 will get their first month paid for by us. Just scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description. By joining today, you'll immediately be making a difference and even be able to see your impact in less than 30 days on YouTube right here. You can cancel your membership at any time, so there's absolutely no catch. Just an easy and remarkable way to create real and lasting change. And if you want to see them in action, check out their mission cleaning up Mumbai's river plastic.